I haven't streamed in a while, so I figured we kind of. So here's the way this is gonna probably go.
Okay.
Baby's probably gonna wake up here at some point, at which point I'll just go up and get him, see if I can have him chill down here. But otherwise, I'll just let you keep going. You could just kind
Okay.
of go on my stream for as long as you want.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long I'll sleep. So anybody, we don't have any viewers yet, but that's okay.
That's all right.
So we're here today to we're gonna watch. Obviously, we can't stream the House Intelligence Committee hearing because YouTube won't allow it. It won't play. I don't know what that means. But yeah, we're Robert and I are basically just going to talk about it and talk about the media's reporting of the transcript and just basically go into all this stuff. We already missed Schiff and Nunez giving their opening statements, and now it is the acting DNI speaking, Joseph McGuire. He started out basically just talking about how he is justifying himself as a true veteran, he loves this country, he does a lot of work with charity, and he believes in all these standards that the Democrats do for nobody is above the law. But obviously, he's already said that the whistleblower complaint did not rise to the level that, because the Democrats are basically complaining that they held it up, getting the whistleblower complaint to the Democrats, and they're basically saying it did not rise to that level because Trump is not a member of the intelligence, or I think that's what he said. That he's not a member of intelligence, and the phone call wasn't a security or intelligence related call. So, and from there, we'll go ahead and Robert, how you doing, man?
Good, good. It's kind of a crazy story. I think this story shows more of the corruption of the media and the Democrats in a more blatant way than we've seen thus far.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff. Did you hear Nunez's opening statement, Robert?
No, I missed it, but I did hear part of Schiff's.
Okay, well, yeah, Nunez basically said, this is yet, the Russia hoax was their first volley, and they're just not going to give up. And he straight up called out the media. The media is doing their bidding. The media is their mouthpiece, which I love hearing because it's the truth that needs to be said endlessly. And Schiff basically just played the whole nobody is above the law. I'm very stoic. I'm a very stoic patriot. Here's my problem with all of this is that this is all kind of up in the air right now, and everybody's so outraged that Joe Biden, we know for a fact that he definitely, even though the media is calling it a conspiracy theory for some inexplicable reason, but Joe Biden did withhold funds, because Obama's really the purse string holder. So it was Obama and Biden withholding aid from Ukraine unless they fired the prosecutor that was investigating a known corrupt company that Biden's son is inexplicably a board member of, right? So we know that's happened. For a fact, no doubt. Nobody seems to care about that in the media. So how am I supposed to take any of this seriously, even if it is true?
Right. And one of the things I heard Schiff say in his opening statements was he said that Trump asked for a favor to come up with dirt on Biden. That's a lie.
That's not what happened.
Never. One, the media is editing out 540 words where Trump's favor was to investigate interference into the 2016 election. That's the very thing that we were told for 3 years that Mueller and Comey had been doing. But now all of a sudden that's illegal is what they would have us believe. Because what the Democrats are really saying is we're concerned about election interference if it could have helped our opponents. But our involvement in election interference that helped us through the Ukraine, that's criminal to investigate. That's the argument they're trying to make.
Right.
And so they edited out that yesterday when they said, actually, Trump asked for a favor about Biden. That's not true. That's not what he asked. And Schiff is further spreading lies today in front of the committee saying Trump asked for them to make up dirt on Biden, which is ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. And they're saying, and this is something that there's a pattern in all this that I'm sure you've noticed, but it's like anytime something unsavory about Democrats or something that could hurt Democrats comes up, they deflect to how that information came out, and that's the scandal. Or it's just like in the election with the WikiLeaks showing Democrat corruption, media collusion with the media. That wasn't the scandal. It was that the servers were hacked was a scandal, and that it was released was a scandal. And it's kind of the same thing with this. It's like, oh no, we don't want to talk about Biden. We don't want to talk about the fact Democrats threatened to withhold aid from Ukraine so that they would open an investigation against Trump. That's not the scandal. It's this. Yeah, man, I'm just so tired of this double standard.
So right now, Schiff's trying to get this director of DNI to admit that this is somehow a serious scandal. The DNI admitted that the IG said that it was a serious matter, but he says that he doesn't have any evidence, that it's not his role to determine whether or not it's serious. He just kind of discusses the facts. And Schiff, of course, being the normal, pencil neck that he is like, but no, it's serious. What you say that it's just serious? I mean, it's just kabuki theater is all it is.
Right. Well, that's what all of this is going to basically be, because the whistleblower, they're saying that the whistleblower came from some Democrat group that's been trying to impeach Trump since he was elected. Literally, since the day he was elected, they started. So, and this guy is from that group. It's secondhand information. When you think about the media reporting it, it's like third-hand information at that point. It's like, how reliable is this even? We have no idea.
Right. And just to let you know, it's going to be super difficult to have this conversation while we're listening. So I've kind of turned down the audio on the committee meeting right now, because I think the discussion we're having is more important anyways.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Schiff, they're not saying anything. They're just, you can already tell what this is going to be. The Democrats are trying to get him to admit, they're trying to get him to admit that it's like this super serious thing. And the guy's not going to do it. He's going to say, just like you said, I mean, let's look at specifically what the whistleblower complaint said. And I've read through most of it. First off, we know out of the gate that all the allegations that the Republicans and the Trump people were making were true. The whistleblower did not hear the phone call himself. He is citing things like the New York Times for hearing abuses that Trump had. That's absurd. Like, under the definition of this guy being a whistleblower, me and you are whistleblowers.
Right.
I've heard dirt on Obama. I've heard dirt on Hillary Clinton and on Joe Biden. I've read reports in the media. Does that mean I'm qualified as a whistleblower to start an investigation of them? And then we know right out of the gate that the whistleblower lies, because if you read the top portion, it says during the July 25th call that Trump explained pleasantries and then spent the rest of the call asking for personal favors to investigate a rival political opponent. That's not true.
Right.
It was 14 seconds worth of conversation that he mentioned Biden.
Right.
So we know right out of the gate, the whistleblower had no direct knowledge of the actual call. He's hearing it from secondhand sources. He's reporting on things that troubled him that he heard in the media, and he's lying about what was on the call. Yet we have to take this seriously as a reason to impeach.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my problem with it. It's just, and I know I'm kind of repeating myself here, but it's like, if these other things are nothing to worry about and no big deal, then why am I supposed to be worried about this? And it's obviously political. I mean, it's just so obvious. And how do I know? And how do I know that this isn't standard operating procedure, but it just never gets talked about in the past, right? Like maybe Reagan did it, maybe Bush did it, Clinton, all of them, but it was just never something they talked about. But now that they know they can use it as a weapon, now they'll do it.
Well, and okay, so let's look at the beginning. How do we know that this is just political theater? I mean, we know, but what are the obvious signs? The first sign is 200 and something Democrats, before they read the transcript, wanted impeachment.
Yeah.
That alone, if this transcript would have said everything the Democrats were accusing Trump of, if it would have said Trump's like, hey, I'm not going to give you any money unless you find Biden guilty, that would be impeachable. I agree with that.
Right, yeah.
But even in that world, had it said that, the Democrats, before they had knowledge of it, said impeach. Do you understand the gravity of what that means? We have the majority, well, almost a majority it was, of Congress willing to impeach over a secondhand source that they don't even have any knowledge whatsoever, and a source that ended up being wrong. Right. That proves to you that what they were saying is, I wish I wanted to do a video if I had better editing capabilities. This was basically the Democrats' argument. Okay, I'm Adam Schiff, and we heard this whistleblower complaint, and we are absolutely outraged on insert whatever the transcript says Trump did. And we think that insert whatever the transcript says Trump did is outrageous. And it didn't matter what the transcript said. Mm-hmm. That's why they voted for impeachment before they read the transcript. Right. So right out of the gate, you know that this is nothing but a political move. They're not concerned about corruption. They would have, if they were concerned about corruption, they would have said, okay, we think this is a serious allegation. Let's wait and see what the transcript said tomorrow. Because remember, Trump came out at 2:00 2 days ago and said, I will release the transcript tomorrow. Right. Pelosi, when she said she was pushing for impeachment, that was 5:00. So they knew at that time that they were pushing for impeachment without knowing what was in the transcript.
Well, and she said, they asked her, like, well, if this turns out not to be anything, are you still going to pursue impeachment? And she's like, oh, well, there's all these other things, and it's obvious they're just going to move the goalposts immediately, to favor. And what's with the timing? There was not to jump too much here, but I saw there was a thread on ATS. I don't know if you saw about the timing of this. I need to go back and read that, but I was just wondering if you had any insight on that. But
well, I mean, my personal feeling is that they're desperate because the IG report's coming out. And one of the things, if I'm playing chess, if I'm corrupt and I'm defending the Democrats and the intel community, one of the things I'm trying to do is, I know what the IG report's going to say, so I'm trying to get on the offense and get people to say things because let's be honest, they know that they're not going to get Trump removed from office with this.
Right.
But what they can get is some defense against the IG report. For example, me and you could look at this and say, so wait a minute. The accusation is that Trump asking a foreign power for evidence into an ongoing U.S. investigation into corruption, possibly by his political opponents, is illegal. But we know for a fact that's exactly what Crossfire Hurricane and what Obama did was, right? We know that they were reaching out to the UK, to Australia, to other Five Eyes groups. We know that the Democrats were reaching out to the Ukraine. We know that
that's
they were
exactly
using
what Hillary did, right?
That's right.
That's
we know
what the
that
dossier is.
So when you say, wait a minute, Trump did exactly what they did, what they're going to do when the IG report comes out and say, but see, all the Trump supporters said that Trump and Obama and Hillary were doing the exact same thing. And if they didn't have a problem with Trump doing it in the Ukraine, why is it all of a sudden a problem now when Obama or Hillary did it? Right. But that's not true, right? And you have to be careful when you're making this argument to give a distinction that what Trump's accused of doing is a lesser version of what they're accused of doing.
Yeah.
And so what they're going to try to do, and I did a video on this, they're going to try to scapegoat Biden eventually. And so this is a win-win for the Democrats. One, they get to play defense on the IG report. But second, when everything blows up, if it does, they'll just say, you're right, Biden's a bad dude. But that's ridiculous. This is not just a Biden scandal. One, he admits in his speech that Obama gave him permission to withhold.
Yep.
To this day, they're still out there saying it wasn't a big deal. John Solomon's going to drop some evidence today that is going to blow people's minds. On Hannity last night, he said he has 450 pages of evidence, including from Joe Biden's son's lawyer, showing that they thought that Joe Biden's argument that he had to fire this prosecutor because he was corrupt is a lie. That's Joe Biden's own son's lawyer. The day after the prosecutor got fired in the Ukraine, that after Biden forced him out, it's telling the new prosecutor, actually, that prosecutor wasn't corrupt. I mean, that's damning for the media narrative. How does the media and the Democrats come back from, you told us for 4 years, there's nothing to see here, there's nothing to see here. But there was. So it's clear that they're corrupt, and we need to make sure that we're not just leaving them scapegoat Joe Biden to get out of this.
Right. And, I thought the same thing. I thought that at some point they'd be like, okay, well, you're right, we need to treat them the same. So, Joe, you're out of the running. And now Warren will be our front runner, and then they would have an excuse to get rid of Trump. I kind of agree with you there.
And another thing that's worth pointing out is, again, you have to remember the problem with our media and stuff is when you're arguing, you learn this like through debate. There's no two situations that are directly equivalent. Like, no matter what, you could say there's varying little differences. And if you're a good debater, you could try to articulate why those differences mean you have a double standard. On one side, for example, we could say obstruction of justice with Trump because blah, 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 because of the specific situation. But Hillary deleting subpoenaed evidence wasn't obstruction of justice. And a good debater could try to make that case, even though me and you know that that's garbage. That's why we needed the media to, before the transcript came out, unfortunately, we don't have a good media, but to nail the Democrats down and say, what exactly would you say is impeachable? Give us those details.
Right.
Because what they would say, and we have to hold them to these standards, they kind of slipped up a little because both Schiff and Pelosi said a quid pro quo is not necessary. So now they're trying to say, but there was an implied quid pro quo. One, there wasn't. But second, hold them to their own argument because they have literally said a quid pro quo is not necessary. So what does this mean? It means they're saying the president or someone in our executive branch can't talk to a foreign leader about cooperating with a U.S. investigation if that investigation involves someone of the other political party. Now, this is, you made the correct point earlier. How do we know this isn't standing operating procedure? We know that it is. We know that this happens all the time, that the executive branch or the Department of Justice or the intel agencies, all which are part of the executive branch, work with other countries in order to find evidence of crimes, even if it involves politicians on the other side. That's what the Five Eyes Agreement's about, to be able to investigate crimes. So they're literally saying every action that was taken by Obama involving investigating Trump was guilty. Every action taken by Hillary Clinton trying to investigate Trump from foreigners, that makes her guilty. And of course, the Democrats, Leahy, Durbin, and Menendez that sent this letter in May of 2018, they're also guilty.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how can you take this serious? They're literally saying the same thing that we have evidence of people on our side doing for 3 years now. Now, all of a sudden, when a Republican does it, it makes them guilty.
Right, exactly. I mean, and it's just like I was talking about earlier. In 2018, Bob Menendez, Dick Durbin, and Patrick Leahy, Leaky Leahy, all wrote a letter to the prosecutor in Ukraine asking him to keep 4 investigations open related to the Mueller probe and to the Russian election. So how's that not the exact same thing? They're asking for investigations into their political opponents.
Yes. And again, think of it's not because, again, the Democrats will try to cut and run. They don't care. Their hatred of Trump is so significant that they'll sacrifice some of their own. So it's not, again, this is not, when you're talking about those 3 senators, it's not just a scandal about those 3 senators. It's a scandal about, have you seen the letter that they sent? Did you see it?
No, I haven't yet.
I saw it. You know where I saw it at? On a Senate.gov website. Do you want to know why I saw it there? Because it was not hidden information. This was open since May of 2018. Yeah. Now, why wasn't CNN that reported on this, or the New York Times, or all these Democrats that are screaming what Trump did is impeachable? Did you hear word one? Did you even hear a Republican say what these 3 senators did was impeachable?
No. The Republicans have been...
So,
yeah.
That's the scandal. The scandal is... yeah, right? You pulled it up right there, right? There it is. And it's not hidden. So we're supposed to believe that this information was public information since May of 2018. No Democrat had a problem with it. No Republican had a problem with it. And CNN and the New York Times and all the media didn't have a problem with it. But now, when Trump does almost the exact same thing, all of a sudden it's a problem. And by the way, I don't think that this letter is proof of a crime of Democrats.
Right.
I really don't.
Right, I don't either.
If what Trump did is, then...
Right, exactly. That's my point. It's like I'm so tired of these, and it's been constant since he got elected. And really, I mean, you could take it back to, comparing George W. Bush to Obama and how they applied standards differently to Obama. It's kind of the same thing, but it's getting ridiculous. And I mean, how can we continue as a country? They say nobody's above the law. They keep saying that shit, and yet they are constantly above the law. It seems Hillary's above the law. Comey's above the law. Sanctuary cities are above the law. They don't actually believe these things, and yet we're all supposed to. It just really bothers me. Like, who in America is buying this? Obviously, people are. A lot of kids, and we see these marches, and it just really bothers me. Like, what are we headed toward? They talk about the nation's institutions being degraded by all this, and they're the ones doing it. I mean, and I like to talk about back at the beginning in 2016, early 2016, Hillary Clinton said that to challenge the election, because Trump had hypothetically said that maybe he would challenge election results, hypothetically, if he lost, maybe. And they said, well, if he does that, that is an attack on this democracy. And the media, went nuts about it too. And yet that's all they've done. So I don't think we could take any of this seriously. I don't. That's why I'm sticking with Trump probably through all of this. But
well, and I challenge anyone. I've had an open invitation to anyone I talk to. Anyone. I challenge anyone to give me any crime that someone in Trump's orbit was accused of that the Democrats haven't done just as bad, if not worse.
Yep.
The only crime I could think of would possibly be annulments, but that's just because no Democrats before they got in office owned anything. They all get corrupt and rich once they're in office.
Right. Yeah.
But other than that, and no one's been charged with annulments, that's just an accusation. I mean, literally, you could take any. Okay, let's just randomly pick one. FARA violations. Paul Manafort's sitting in solitary confinement because he failed to register as a foreign lobbyist.
Yep.
However, in Mueller's own indictment of Manafort, he says that he worked with other groups, such as the Podesta Group, who, by the way, was the exact same position to Hillary that Manafort was to Trump, campaign manager. So they committed the exact same crime with the exact same people. Manafort's in solitary confinement. Where's Podesta? He got to sign retroactive paperwork and was never charged.
Yep.
Or how about lying to the FBI? We know that Flynn, who, by the way, if you actually read the 302s, Flynn, I don't understand how they even accuse Flynn of lying, because at the end of it, he blatantly says, I guess this conversation could have happened, but I have no memory of it.
Right.
If that's considered a lie, then I got bad news for Hillary Clinton and James Comey and everyone else that testifies.
I do not recall. I do not recall was the most said phrase during Hillary Clinton's questioning.
Yes.
They said.
Yes, but that for some reason they said, but again, we don't have, why are people like me and you covering this better than the media? Did you hear anyone even on Fox News going through the actual 302 and Flynn? Of course not.
No, you know why though? It's just this constant barrage. I think it's like a lot of Republicans, I think, are like, oh, this time they got him, because the media is convincing. The media comes out in such force, it's very convincing. But I do have another double standard for crime, and that's campaign finance. Barack Obama was found guilty of campaign finance violations and had to pay a huge fine. I don't even ever remember hearing about that in the news or it ever being an issue. It was never like, you never saw Wolf Blitzer getting on every night. Oh, campaign violations by the Obama administration. Oh my God, this is attack on democracy. And there's been several. I want to even say, didn't Clinton have some sort of campaign violation? I want to say he did. It's not an uncommon thing, is what I'm saying. And so.
And what happens is, and when you argue with people after the fact, they'll say, what do you mean the media didn't cover it? How did you find it then? Well, the media oftentimes does cover. For example, the New York Times wrote about this Biden-Ukraine story, right? The problem is the media knows they have to come out with the information, because if they don't talk about it, then they concede the implications to the other side. And the problem with the media, when we talk about a corrupt media, yes, there are stories that they just bury, but oftentimes the problem is it's not that they're not being factual, it's how they spin the facts. So, for example, they could give you the details of the Biden-Ukraine case, or they could give you the details of the Obama campaign finance violations, but then they spin it to their readers of, it's not that big of a deal, right? And so then that becomes the story. And we see this happen over and over again. That's the problem with the media. For example, the lying to the FBI. We know, so Flynn got charged for that. Let's say he was guilty. But we know for a fact that through Peter Strzok's own 302 notices and publicly available emails that both Mills and Abedin, Hillary Clinton's lawyers, lied to the FBI because they both said they had no knowledge of Hillary's private server until after her tenure as Secretary of State. Well, we know from released emails that as early as 2010, they were talking about the dangers of that potential server. So, but where's the reporting? Why is this not a big deal? Flynn's lie was immaterial. What was Flynn accused of lying about?
Exactly.
Of asking Russians to not attack the United States because of Obama's sanctions policy. I think that's something that every American should want. Oh, he asked to de-escalate conflicts with a foreign power? Sure, that sounds good. What was the lies of Mills and Abedin? Lying about something material to that investigation. The investigation was on Hillary's server. They specifically lied to keep Hillary out of trouble. But it's not, it's literally every crime. Like, I challenge anyone on the chat. Name a crime that someone in Trump's orbit's been accused of. And within half a second, I can tell you of someone in the Hillary side or the intel community getting away with the same thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a long list. And just to piggyback off what you were saying, I hate that phrase, piggyback, but just to piggyback off what you were saying, the media, they may report something like, you may find an internet story about something that like something that the media doesn't necessarily want to cover widely. They'll do an internet story, or maybe they'll do a 2-second, 5-second piece on it real quick. But there's a big difference between that and the drum beat, that steady drum beat, the leading headline, the leading, like every news show that starts, they're leading with that story. That's the big difference, is that when they really want to pound something into your head, they will. And when they don't necessarily want people to be lingering on that, they'll make sure of that too. So that's what we're talking about.
That's exactly. Look at what the media did yesterday. This is one day, okay? Look at what they did. First, you had reporters from CNN that were going out and they were editing out 540 words. Because for those of you that didn't read the transcript, please read the transcript. It's only 5 pages. It's easy to find online. It's worth reading, okay? What Trump says is they're exchanging pleasantries, and then Trump's like, yeah, the United States has been really good for you. We wish that the Europeans would do more for you. And the Ukrainian president's like, thank you. I agree. The Europeans don't do enough. And Trump's like, but I was wondering if you could do us a favor. There's accusations of election meddling, basically through CrowdStrike and other groups in the 2016 election. And this guy said, the president of Ukraine says, yeah, we're going to be looking into that. We think that it's important to get to the bottom of this corruption. And then Trump says, by the way, after that, he says, by the way, I heard there's accusations that Joe Biden forced a really good prosecutor that was investigating that corruption out. Maybe you should look into that. The Ukrainian president says, yes, we've been talking to try to get information to Rudy Giuliani because we think that we have evidence that you might like to see. That's it.
Yeah.
But they edited out that middle section. So they made it said on CNN, Trump asked for a favor, investigate Biden. They completely take out all of that information I told you before that. Trump never asked for a favor to investigate Biden. He asked for a favor to investigate election meddling in 2016.
Yep. Yeah, I have it right here. Then, I'll read it. It's Trump. I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot, and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say CrowdStrike. I guess you have one of your wealthy people has the server. They say Ukraine has it. And then he goes on to talk about Mueller and the nonsense about the Russian, his hearing and the nonsense around that. And then after he responds, then he talks about Biden for like one sentence.
Yep.
it's like
that's exactly.
Yeah.
And the media took that out. So that's the first lie the media told. The second lie they told, it was reported that this guy right now, Joseph McGuire, right, that's testifying in front of Congress, that he said that if Trump didn't leave him testifying in front of Congress, he would resign. McGuire's office came out and said, that's not true. I've never threatened to resign. I've never threatened to quit my job. That's lie number 2. Yeah. Lie number 3, it was reported through The Hill, Axios, ABC, CBS, a bunch of other news sources I saw, that a Ukrainian official came out and said, yes, the call between the U.S. President Trump and Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, was contingent on the fact that they talked about Joe Biden, okay? Which seems to be a big story. That shows that there must have been some quid pro quo. Only now, that same Ukrainian officials came out and said, actually, I'm not actually an official in Ukraine anymore. I've been fired for over 6 months, and I never said that. And that official is a man by the name of Lyshenko. Lyshenko is the actual former Ukrainian official that's under investigation for giving dirt to the Democrats in the 2016 election.
Oh my God.
But the media didn't report any of that. That's 3 bombshell stories in one day that the media blatantly lied about. I mean, I just don't know what to say. It's like they're hyperventilating because they know that the hammer's coming down. Right. They know that this IG report is going to be damning for them and the Democrats.
Yeah, and to that point that you were talking about the media and not talking about all these lies, they're not talking about anything. Like as far as the not even the cable news, but the network news, which a lot of that network news I think is viewed more than cable news. They're not talking at all about. The fact that this person has a political bias, that they came from this partisan group that's been trying to get Trump impeached from the very beginning, and they haven't talked about what you're talking about these lies. They're just not reporting it.
Right. And when you talk about this, so like we'll be on Above Top Secret, or now I've been more on Twitter. And so when we'll talk about this, I mean, just for those of you that don't know, the story's real simple. Let's just take the names out of it. We had a high executive official whose son was working for a corrupt oligarch in the Ukraine. And that official threatened to withhold $1 billion unless the prosecutor looking into his son's company was fired. That's it. That's damning. There is no reason that there's not an investigation there. None. Okay? That official happened to be Joe Biden. If it was Donald Trump, he would already be impeached. But it was Biden. So what the media is doing, we talk about the corruption of this, and I could go through specific details. Look at this article. Look at this. Look at what this official's saying. What the response that I'm given is, nah, you're wrong. Copy and paste an article. And it'll be from The Intercept or from the Washington Post or from PolitiFact. Those are the 3 articles that I've seen repeated over and over and over.
Yeah,
on this,
I've seen the PolitiFact one, yeah.
The problem is, right, what they end up saying is, because I'll be like, but look, Ukrainian officials say that actually they have evidence that Biden tried to bury this story. Oh, those Ukrainians must be liars. My article answers that. So when you look at who are they citing in the Ukraine then that says these people are liars, there's people from 2 groups. The one's the NABU. The NABU is basically the FBI of the Ukraine. This group has been under investigation because it is proven that the Obama administration was buddies with them and exerted influence over and over again to drop prosecutions or drop evidence becoming public that would negatively affect the Democrats. For example, there's one story, there was a Democrat mega donor who was going to be outed by a prosecution that the NABU was doing of illegal funds going through the Ukraine. The Obama administration pressured the NABU to drop the case, and they did. So Biden's son's investigation went to this NABU. And you're citing them as proof that everything was okay. Do you not see the conflict of interest? Now, does that mean that the NABU is automatically lying? No, I guess not. But you don't get to say, well, everyone on the other side has skin in the game. Everyone in the Ukraine that's saying what Biden did was corrupt has skin in the game, so we shouldn't listen to them, while ignoring the fact that the very people you were citing are actually being investigated for corruption.
Yeah.
And the other groups, this woman, Kaluniak, she's from, it's called the Anti-Corruption Action Center in the Ukraine. And it's basically like these progressive groups we have in the United States that are funded by Soros, where it's a bunch of young people. For example, this group was famous for wearing F Ukraine corruption, except it actually said F. They're just immature, but they're funded by Soros. They were given money by the U.S. State Department. Well, that's illegal in the Ukraine. You have to go through proper channels for an organization, a nonprofit, to accept foreign monies. And so after Shokin's the prosecutor that Biden got fired. Biden admits in his speech they replaced him with a solid guy. That guy's name is Lutsenko, not to be confused with Lushenko I was talking about earlier. Yeah. But Lutsenko has admitted publicly that he was investigating this Kaluniak woman and her group, the Anti-Corruption Action Center, and Obama's ambassador came to him and said, you cannot investigate that woman. And he had to drop the case. Now, this woman is the one that's being cited by The Intercept of, oh, no, Biden did nothing wrong. You don't think she has skin in the game? She was being investigated, and Biden got the investigation into her dropped.
That's wild. I hadn't heard about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it just, and so I point this out to people, and their response to me is like, yeah, but what about this PolitiFact argument? It's citing the same people. Like, it's all cyclical. These same corrupt people all cite each other. And then they'll say things like this. Well, actually, a bunch of other people said that that prosecutor should have been fired, such as the Atlantic Council and the International Monetary Fund. Yes, a bunch of globalists that were some of Obama's biggest allies are saying Obama didn't do anything corrupt.
Right.
Of course, that would be no different than me citing. Imagine if I was like, well, I could prove Trump didn't do anything wrong. Here's Sean Hannity. See?
Right. Exactly.
People would rightfully be like, yeah, but that's garbage. Sean Hannity's incredibly partisan.
Right. That's like they keep saying on CNN, MSNBC that when people bring up Biden, that's just a conspiracy theory. And a couple people on Twitter have responded to me that way. And I'm like, tell me the conspiracy. Which part is a conspiracy? Because Biden, he bragged about doing this. And the only part you could say is a conspiracy theory is that something was amiss with him being on that board. But I mean, first of all, we need an investigation to find that out for sure, obviously. But besides that, I mean, come on, look at it. The guy's got no experience, gets a $600,000 a year job as a board member on this energy company, when he has no experience in energy. And it just so happens, not to keep repeating this, but that his father then gets the prosecutor investigating that company fired. Come on, like that screams for an investigation. If you're a journalist, if you're a real journalist, that's like, oh my God, I'm going after this story. But no, that's not what's happening.
That's absolutely right. So if you look at this situation closely, like there are two defense being given to Biden. Here's what we do know. Biden did do a quid pro quo, or the word I prefer to use instead is extortion. He threatened to withhold $1 billion. That's extortion. We know that he did that. We know that it was effective. We know that the prosecutor looking into his son was then fired. And we know that the investigation into his son was basically buried and didn't go anywhere afterwards. Those are all confirmed facts, right? Undisputed. Here's the two defenses that are given of Joe Biden. One, the prosecutor that he had fired wasn't looking into his son anyways. That's not true. Even this anti-American...
Well, not his son.
What's that?
I'm sorry, go ahead. I wasn't looking into his son, but the company he was, right?
Right. And it actually, Shokin, the prosecutor, says that he came out and had just drafted papers to interview and interrogate Biden's son. So they specifically were looking at his son.
Okay.
But people say there wasn't an investigation going. Well, two things on that. One, even the Anti-Corruption Action Center that I just talked about that's corrupt and for Obama, that was working with the Obama administration, their own website and that leader of it, Kaluniak, admits that there were 4 investigations going on into Biden's son's company, Burisma. 2 of them, she claims, was shut down by this corrupt prosecutor. So, of course, she's going to spin it that way, right? But even she admits that 2 of the investigations were then kicked to the NABU, the other corrupt group that I was talking about, and that they're still ongoing to this day. So it is, even the people defending Biden are saying, no, actually the investigations were going on and are still going on. So that's a lie. One, that's a lie. Second, Imagine being Joe Biden in this situation. What is the claim here? People were saying, well, the investigation was shut down. How would Biden know that? The only way Biden would know that is if he was getting improper facts or improper evidence from the people prosecuting his son's company, which would in itself be corruption, right? For example, if you're being investigated, Dronetek, your family's not going to get the details of the investigation, right?
No.
That's investigation 101. So all Biden knew was there was an investigation into his son, and he knew who the head prosecutor was in that. And so after that prosecutor was fired, it just coincidentally goes to an agency that's been under the thumb of Obama and Biden for years. Isn't that a coincidence? Don't you think that warrants investigation?
You would think. I mean, just imagine it for just a millisecond being on the other side, and boom, nationwide story. And I think you are maybe you haven't heard this argument. There's another argument that I'm hearing a lot on Twitter, and that's that Biden didn't have control of the purse strings. He wasn't able to withhold that money from them. And it's like, well, Obama was, and he told when he's bragging about this, he told the person he was talking to, go talk to Obama then. And he's very proud of that. He's like looking at his watch, but I got to go in 6 hours or 6 minutes or something like that.
Yeah,
so
6 hours.
That's a bullshit excuse too.
Yeah. Well, when he's being a tough guy, and he's bragging in front of, by the way, when he's giving this speech, it's in front of the Council on Foreign Relations. I don't know how conspiratorial you are, but they're about the worst organization in the world. Yeah. But he's trying to make himself seem like a tough guy. He says, I told him, hey, you're going to get rid of it. First off, he said, and this is the other thing, another argument you hear. Well, the Ukraine was going to fire this prosecutor anyways. That's not true. If that's the case, why did they wait until they were threatened with $1 billion? Because Biden starts off his big speech by saying, we were involved in talks to get this guy Shokin fired, but they just didn't do it. So by the time I showed up, I said, that's it. You're not getting this $1 billion unless this guy's fired right now. And they said, you're not the boss, Obama is. And I said, call him. Right? So that's proof of what you're saying. Yeah. He's like, wait and see. You're not going to get this $1 billion. And then, of course, the firing happened. And second, the reason that argument's stupid, so what then? It's okay for Obama to get his vice presidents to, it's okay for Obama to extort, but not for Biden? Right. What the hell does that make sense? It's still a benefit to Obama. Keep in mind, the investigation into Biden is also an accusation of 2016 election interference, because there's two possible ways you could interfere in an election, right? Mm-hmm. You could corruptly interfere by getting people to give you dirt or to start an evidence against your opponent, or you could corruptly get evidence into yourself buried. Both of those are election interference. Both of those would affect the election. Mm-hmm. How bad would it have looked for Hillary Clinton in 2016 if in May before the election, it came out that there was an investigation into Joe Biden's son? Because while the Obama administration was supposed to be ferreting out corruption in the Ukraine, Joe Biden's son was working for one of the corrupt oligarchs, and Biden then proceeded to get his son's prosecutor fired. How bad would that have looked? Right. So, of course, there was every incentive for the Democrats in the 2016 election to not have this story come to light. Remember, not only is it the same party, but Hillary Clinton worked in that administration with Obama. So
is all of this
devastating?
Yeah, I mean, is all of this just some way of deflecting from that, or it seems like maybe, because I mean, Joe Biden, I'm pretty sure was going to be their guy, and it almost seems like this is some sort of like smokescreen for that. Although I don't know how that would work as a smokescreen because it's bringing a lot of attention to it. But real quick, I did want to play that clip just so anybody who has not, people haven't seen this.
6 hours. I looked at it. It's even 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
And so yeah, I forgot about the little thing I did there, but yeah, it's insane. It's like that. It's on. He's admitting it. So yeah, that it's just another thing that discredits our institution of our supposed free press. This charade that's going on right now on TV. I can't take any of it seriously.
Well, and so that was the first offense. And the other thing I'll say about this first offense, please watch the website The Hill today. Now, The Hill is a left-of-center publication. Mm-hmm. They're always going after Trump, but they have a reporter for them, John Solomon, who is fantastic, who's done incredible work on the Russia hoax and is doing incredible work on this Biden situation. He's going to release 400 pages of documents that show that the even Hunter Biden, that's Joe Biden's son, his legal defense team acknowledges that the investigation was still ongoing. So that's three things. One, Biden thought it was ongoing. Second, even the people defending Biden say it was ongoing. And third, Biden's own son's lawyers say the investigation was ongoing. Yep. That's defense one of Joe Biden, out the window, right? Yep. Defense two, like you were saying, well, Biden didn't have the purse string, out the window. Because even if it was Obama, it's still a corruption, and Biden admits Obama gave him authority. So the third thing, the only other defense they have is, well, a bunch of other people wanted this prosecutor fired. That's irrelevant. Both things could be true at the same. In fact, it could have been true that this prosecutor was horribly corrupt. But that isn't proof that the reason Biden wanted him fired wasn't because it was of personal benefit to him. So let's assume that the same thing would have happened with Trump, right? Let's assume that there was someone potentially looking into crimes of Trump or those around him, and that you had people of all stripes saying that person should be fired, okay? And then let's assume that Trump actually fired that person. Do you think there would have been an investigation into that?
No doubt about it. I mean, come on.
Oh, not only would have there been, that's exactly what happened with James Comey. Yeah. Exactly, right? Democrats wanted him fired. Republicans wanted him fired. Rod Rosenstein wrote a notice saying that he should be fired. So Trump fires him. And we have a 2-year special counsel investigation come about as a result of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yet right. So the excuse, well, everyone wanted this prosecutor fired, is garbage. Because if it would have been Trump getting his son's prosecutor fired, it wouldn't have been enough for him to say, well, Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh all said this prosecutor was illegitimate. That's why I fired him.
Yeah,
it had nothing to do with my son.
Yeah, that's something that occurred to me. I kept hearing that, and it's like, well, maybe all these people are corrupt and had some reason to want him fired. How do we not know that? How does a journalist not ask that question?
That's right.
It's just deception all over the place. And real quick, I hear baby crying, so go for a minute. Go ahead.
Okay. And so I just wanted to talk about this real quick. So that's the defense given. That defense doesn't hold up to scrutiny. It's quite clear that there should have at least been an investigation. One, an official investigation by U.S. intelligence services, but second, an investigation by the media. And they didn't do either. Now, what's even more damning of this is if you go back and you read these articles that have been coming out this week that are defending Joe Biden, from The Intercept, from The Washington Post, from PolitiFact, all of them cite people that say, well, it was a huge conflict of interest for Hunter Biden to be on this board while his dad was the point man for ending corruption. But do you remember them reporting that in 2015 and 2016? No. And this is another trick that the media and the Democrats always do. Look at the Bill Clinton thing. So what happens is they cover up for crimes that then they later allege people of doing. So like with Bill Clinton. So the whole Me Too thing, right, comes out, and everyone's like, well, wait a minute, that wasn't how you dealt with Bill Clinton. And they say, oh, yeah, we should have changed. That's what they constantly do. When you're in the moment and you're saying, here's things that are corrupt, here are things that we should be investigating, the media says, no. Obama's a scandal-free president. Not a smidgen of corruption in this administration. And then they later admit, oh, yeah, that was a huge conflict of interest for Hunter Biden to be there. But trust us now, even though we dropped the ball on that story in 2016, trust us now when we say, even though it was the potential for a conflict of interest, Biden's actions weren't really because of that.
Right. And real quick, guys, I got this guy with me here. So this is my son here. So I'm probably not going to be able to keep doing this live stream. Do you want to keep going, Robert, or...
I'll just go real quick. There was one other thing, two other quick things I wanted to say.
Yeah.
The first is, if you watch yesterday Adam Schiff's press conference, isn't it amazing that after he got done saying that even without a quid pro quo that this was a crime, that not one reporter asked him about the letter that those Democratic senators sent? Right. Not one. Yeah. Like that to me is amazing. The other thing I wanted to say was, and it's a little complicated, so I'll try to do it as fast as possible. You even watch I think that a lot of these Republicans, basically, they're establishment Republicans, and they want Trump out as much as anyone else. Like, you can't convince me that Mitt Romney wouldn't have rather had Hillary Clinton as president. And you even see it from people that I kind of respect sometimes, like Ben Shapiro. So I watched Shapiro's show for the past 2 days, and he's been making what I think is an absurd argument. And the argument's something like this. He's saying what Trump's accused of doing and what Biden did are very similar in the fact that they're both accused of exerting pressure for something that could potentially be of personal benefit. That's what they're both accused of. Yeah. But he says this. He says, if there was a quid pro quo that we could prove with Trump, in other words, if we know that he attached giving aid to the Ukraine for an investigation of Biden, then that's reason to impeach and that's corruption. But he doesn't feel the same way with Biden. With Biden, he says, it looks bad on paper, because we know there was a quid pro quo. Biden admitted.
Right.
He says it looks bad in paper, but there's no proof that Biden did this for personal reasons.
Right. So you investigate.
That's right. One, you investigate. But second, look at what they're really saying. It's a very complicated argument, so I'll try to make it simple. They're saying, and it's not just Shapiro saying this, a lot of Democrats are saying this as well. They're saying two things are necessary for this to be a crime. One, it had to be a quid pro quo. In other words, someone in the executive branch had to offer or threaten some sort of aid in exchange for some sort of investigation. Okay? Now, look at the difference. We know from the transcript that is not what happened with Trump, but we know with Biden that is exactly what happened.
Yep,
right?
Exactly.
And so they're trying to say,
question.
That's right, and they're trying to say, well, actually, Trump's words were coded; it was a quid pro quo, but that's garbage. But aside from that, why is it that what Biden did was the quid pro quo? Shapiro and all these people are saying it's not a crime. It's because there's a second thing that's necessary, right? It's not just that it had to be a quid pro quo. It had to be for personal benefit. So
right.
The intent had to be corrupt.
Right.
That's where Shapiro and all these Democrats infuriate me.
Yeah.
Because with Biden, they're saying, well, unless we have 100% proof this was for personal benefit, then it looks bad, but yeah, no crime. But with Trump, they don't say that. They say all that's necessary is a quid pro quo. That proves corruption. But wait a minute. Couldn't Trump have offered a quid pro quo? Again, he didn't. But
right.
Even if you're saying he did, couldn't he have had non-personal reasons for doing so?
Right.
Like, here's some suggestions.
He was talking about corruption. I mean, he was talking about cutting up the corruption.
Exactly. What the Ukrainian president say in that very transcript. Us investigating the 2016 election interference from the Ukraine and the firing of this prosecutor is important to establish honesty and end corruption in our country.
Yep.
In other words, the Ukrainian president saying, yes, until we investigate this, there's obvious signs of corruption. Now, wasn't the very argument the reason it was okay for Joe Biden to do a quid pro quo because you don't want to give $1 billion to a corrupt country? We actually have the president of Ukraine saying, I don't mind you for thinking we're corrupt until we solve this. So couldn't Trump have legitimately just been like, hey, I'm just trying to make sure I'm not giving a corrupt country money? Or secondly, as Trump specifically says, couldn't he have just been saying, we think that election interference into the 2016 election is a very important thing to investigate. And if you're withholding evidence about potential election interference from Ukraine, we're not going to give you money. That's not a personal benefit. That's doing exactly what the Democrats said were the most important thing in the world for the entire Mueller investigation. We have to get to the bottom of election interference.
Yep.
So in effect, what the Democrats are saying is just to wrap that up real quick. What is Ben Shapiro supposedly a Republican? Like, it just goes to show you what's really going on in their heads. The standard they give, and it's everyone, the media, even the Republicans do this. They always give the most benefit of the doubt to the Democrats or the intel agencies. Yeah. That's why Comey, even though he was referred for criminal investigation, isn't. But the Republicans, it's always the exact opposite. A 1% chance of any corruption proves guilt. Right. And so it's just absurd. And the last thing is, what the Democrats are saying is, they claim to be for investigating election interference. They're literally saying, we are allowed to investigate election interference if it benefited Donald Trump. However, if the other side investigates election interference that benefits us, that in itself is a crime.
Right. Yep.
Because that's what they're saying. So, I mean, the whole thing is just unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. And, not to go off on another tangent here, but that all kind of fits in with, like how they put forward these spokespeople that you're not allowed to criticize, like this little girl or, Barack Obama. If you criticize him, you're a racist. And yeah, they're always trying to set themselves on some different set of standards and they're above us and they enforce their standards on us, but not the other way around. And, Republicans and Shapiro always too worried about appearing middle of the road or nuanced, and they think it's going to score them points, but it never does. Why do they keep doing it?
I mean, it's absurd. But, to that point you just made there, the Democrats, it is so pathetic because they've had the media in their pocket for so long. They're not asked difficult questions. They put up Greta Thunberg because they know then they don't have to answer difficult questions, etc. Yep. Did you see that someone asked... Elizabeth Warren's big push right now is anti-corruption, right? That's what she's pushed. She's got a big plan to solve corruption. Someone asked her yesterday, hey, would you allow your vice president's son to be on the board of a company owned by a corrupt foreign oligarch? And she was like, she had no idea what to say. Right. Now, your entire platform's anti-corruption, and it was impossible for you to just say, yeah, of course I wouldn't. because they know she has to. But no one asks these difficult questions, and so when they actually someone with integrity asks them a question, that's not even a difficult question, by the way. They don't know what to say. All they know how to do is to be pandered to. Watch all the town halls on climate change. Right. Watch all the Democrat debates. Well, the moderators.
It's an echo
Trump's
chamber.
a racist. How would you fight Trump's racism?
Oh, I know.
I mean, it's absurd.
Yeah, and what you were just saying, I actually had something I wanted to say there, but I lost my track of thought there. What were you just saying there? Not to like get all weird here, but
oh no, it's just that they don't know how to defend themselves. And I might be able to. Go ahead. Were you going to talk about that gun debate?
Well, no, we do need to talk about that for sure. Right. But I guess my point was that, I always ask people, like, what's the last Democrat scandal that you remember? Like, what's the last time you remember the media going after, like, pursuing a Democrat for anything? Or, a nightly... I can't remember. Like, I don't even know in my lifetime if that's even ever happened. Maybe the Clinton years is, like, probably the closest thing. But, yeah, it just doesn't happen. And, that's why you get when Joe Biden was asked by Ducey from Fox News about all of this going on, and he pointed his finger at him. He's like, "You got to ask the right questions." It's like, yeah, you got to ask the lapdog softball questions. That's what he's used to getting, and that's what he wants. And it's just so sad that he can do that and doesn't get in. He's basically bullying a journalist. Right? He's bullying the journalist to ask the right question. And the media's like, oh, yes. I in one of my videos, I put a thing from CNN where all the CNN panel agreed that he was right.
Right. And this is they accuse the other side of what they themselves do. So they're virulent going after any journalist that has the nerve to ask them a serious question. But Trump's the one that's always bullying journalists. He takes questions from everyone. Like, of course he's rude to the ones he doesn't like, but at least he's taking the questions. What did Barack Obama do? Well, you remember James Rosen from Fox? Well, his family was wiretapped by Obama because he didn't like the story and he wanted the story buried. Yet no one talks about that.
And Cheryl Atkinson.
It's really quite amazing. They accused Trump of. Do you remember Trump pointing his finger saying, "You have to ask the right questions to a journalist"? Of course not. He just says you're corrupt. Yeah. Which they are.
Especially when it's Acosta you're talking about, anybody from CNN. But, hey, man, it was a great chat, and I think we may try and do this again later at 5, if you still want to do that.
I might be able to do that. I'll let you know here throughout the day.
All right.
I'm probably going to be putting up more videos. Once this Solomon report comes out, I'm going to be definitely talking about that. So
yeah, and I got a video I'm in the process of doing, too, although I feel like by the time I get it out, it's kind of old news. Just because it's about CNN not talking about the transcript, but I want to talk about it. So, I
mean, that's what's brutal about this story. It's so fast.
It's fast.
I mean, and so by the time, if you take your time to do something, it's like, I went and picked up my in-laws' dog, and by the time I came back, the whistleblower complaint was released. Yeah. It's like, holy cow.
Yeah, yes.
I mean.
Yesterday the transcript came out, and I'm like, oh, damn, I got to hurry up and get something out. And I hurried up and got through it and put it out. I really had wanted to do more, but if you want to get it out there before it's passed, it's like you got to get it out. But
well, and just the last thing I'll say is, doesn't it seem odd to you how fast this is going?
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like they're desperate because they are.
It's a lot of sleight of hand going on. I am happy to hear Nunez and a couple of these Republicans finally speaking up, but there needs to be more of it. Who knows if there's going to be? It looks like I was reading yesterday that 11 Republicans were signing on for impeachment or something, although they weren't naming who they were. Did you see that? Schumer, or not Schumer. Schiff was out there making the claim, but. Anywho, thanks, guys. This was just a kind of hastily done. We were going to talk more about the whistleblower hearings, but since we can't stream it and listening to it here, it just interferes with the live stream. I think we'll probably just watch it, and then we'll do a live stream later about it, or videos about it. So thanks, everybody, for watching, as always. And Robert, this guy, Robert, not only does he have all this stuff, he's already figured it all out, but he remembers, like, all the Russian or all the Ukrainian names, which blows my mind. Lashenko and Ledenko. What was you, like, know all the names?
Yeah. Shokin, Letsenko, Leshenko.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have no life. So trust me, my wife's ready to kill me. If she hears one more Ukrainian name, she's probably going to strangle me.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, everybody go check out Robert's channel. Definitely subscribe. If you like my channel, you're going to love his channel because this guy is a machine. Seriously. Go check him out. Go watch his videos, and I'll catch you all next time. Thanks, Robert.
We'll see you.